Hey everyone, how's it going? I guess it's been a while since I made a World of Tanks video, so sorry about that. But today I'm in my fairly new AMX CDC. I think it's pronounced Chasseur de chars, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't speak one word of French, so my pronunciation could be completely off. So I think from this point on I'll just stick with CDC. Anyways, I picked this tank up the other week, and I'm really happy I did. It's quickly become my favorite tank to actually make credits with, even over my T-34 heavy tank, which I really enjoyed playing if I had to make credits. Namely because every shot, well, not every shot, but most shots I fired with that gun would penetrate. And that's how you make money in premium tanks, is you deal damage. And that's what kind of annoyed me with the 112, the Chinese Tier 8 premium heavy tank, for instance. Like, it has decent frontal armor, and as long as people don't shoot you in the lower plate, you can bounce a lot of shots, but 175 penetration is not good in most circumstances. You'd have trouble even dealing with T-32s frontally, or at least I would, which meant you would have to fire a decent amount of high-explosive anti-tank premium rounds, which kind of defeats the purpose of actually playing a premium tank to make money. So yeah, that's why I don't play the 112 very much. Why I prefer the Chasseur de chars over the T-34 now is because the T-34 shells cost comparatively quite a bit, over 1,000 credits per shell, whereas the CDCs cost 255 credits per shell. So if you deal quite a bit of damage in either tank, the CDC is going to make more money simply because the shells cost less and you're paying less for ammunition. Now, the T-34 does have effective armor going for it. If you can get hull down, you are in a great position in the T-34, especially if your enemies just let you shoot at them. The CDC has armor that doesn't count for diddly squat. You basically cannot bounce anything except for really ridiculous angles in certain places, and even then it's going to be very lucky if you do so. You can't really side scrape at all in this tank, as you're about to see against this KV-4. And trading with the KV-4 is not my smartest idea. It's not good life choices. But here I wanted to see if I could actually get the tracks to eat a shot. And my conclusion is that they cannot. Or, actually that's not true. He hits me in the side of the turret instead of the tracks. But his shell just overmatched my armor and it went right through. Now, because the armor is so bad, you can actually get penetrated by HE shells of just about any tank at your tier and below your tier. And as you might imagine, artillery will absolutely wreck this tank. So you don't want to be getting shot at by artillery, for obvious reasons. Now, why I like this tank so much, besides the ridiculous credit potential, is that it's fast. You can relocate around the battlefield so easily, whereas the T-34 is really, really slow in everything it does. This tank just rockets around. Climbing hills, it's really good because of its power to weight ratio, which is the best in game actually. The gun on the CDC is also quite nice, tying for second place with the Indian Panzer for best penetration for a Tier 8 medium, coming behind the Japanese STA-1. In fact, the gun on the CDC is basically the same thing as on the Indian Panzer. All the penetration values for the AP, APCR, and AG shells are exactly the same. It also has the same accuracy as the Indian Panzer, 0.34, although the aim time is better, but the rate of fire is slightly worse. The CDC also has 10 degrees of gun depression, which makes using terrain quite nice. You don't have to expose much of your tank, although don't expect to bounce any shots off the turret. It's not gonna happen. But anyways, I think that's enough rambling about the tank for the moment, and back to the game at hand. So we've pushed off the hill now on Melanovka, and the enemies are sort of digging in along the zero line. The IS-3 is hunkered down behind a rock. There are 3 scouts behind him actually, a T-71, a T-21, and a Type 64 almost back in the enemy base. And behind that, there's a Tu-28 and an IS-6 in the base. Now this Hellcat decides to go charge down a nearly 2/3 health IS-3 there. And while he is keeping the IS-3 lit, he's about to die to one of the scouts. This does allow me to get a shot more of damage into the IS-3. Unfortunately, the second one bounces, and I stick around a little too long to take a shot at this T-21. And the IS-3 gets his revenge on me for shooting at him, which puts me in one-shot territory, which is not good, especially now that the scores are tied and the enemies have the HP advantage. Now, since I am at such low health, I decide to pull back, as there's really no point to me dying at the moment. My gun is still usable, so the longer I can survive, the better for my team. We have Tolukami in his awful Panther to do the lighting for us, so I don't actually need to be up front and center and potentially getting myself killed to actually spot the enemies. So now I can just sit back and pretend I'm a TD. While I pick on these tier 6 tank destroyers. Although it takes me a few seconds to actually decide what to do here, I ended up deciding that going over to stick closer to my teammates is the best course of action for me at the moment. Because where I am now, I am kind of isolated from the rest of my team. If the enemies wanted to, they could push up the zero line in that trench close to the map border, and my platoon mates and other teammates wouldn't actually be able to get too many shots on them. Now what I really want to avoid doing is actually getting shot from the enemy base, because they still have quite a few tanks over there. Namely the T-28 prototype, which is a massive pain. I decided to load APCR for this IS-6 here, because I absolutely wanted to penetrate every shot, because this game is actually fairly close. And I decided to go back for said IS-6 to try and get there before the SU-100 dies, but that's not going to happen. The enemy FE-304 actually finishes him off. And we can see that the enemy Type 64 is actually, well, no, he actually just drowned. Not entirely sure why. Maybe he just wasn't watching where he was driving, but whatever. So now all I have to do is stay in the low ground here, make sure I don't get shot by the T-28, and spot the IS-6 or TX Racer in his ISU-152. I don't even have to shoot the guy myself. I can just light him up, and Racer will more than likely finish him off. Now Tolokame and his Aufklärungspanther decided to come over as well, and he was originally going to take the hit from the IS-6 to allow me to finish the guy off, but then the T-71 came rolling in and kind of messed up our plans. And now I'm just trying to snipe at the IS-6's turret from long range. But then we decide again to go after this guy. I'm just staying a little ways back because I obviously can't take a shot from him until I can. And Racer still ends up finishing him off. And that was a little close for comfort. Those little FE304s will absolutely wreck this tank. Especially if they get to hit it more than once. They can just rain down rapid fire death and destruction on CDCs. Unfortunately though, all of us are one-shot territory. And the enemies still do have quite a bit of health left. I figured Racer would be able to take out this IS-3, so I decided to go after the T-21 and get him dead. And yep, Racer dealt with the IS-3. Now, basically all that's left is the enemy T-28, who is quite a skilled player, even if he has camped in his base the entire game. Tola managed to survive with just 1 health. And actually, the battle timer is starting to tick down. We have just over 2 minutes to deal with this T-28, which doesn't put a lot of pressure on us, but it's better to kill him sooner than later. Obviously, we don't want this to turn into a draw. Luckily, though, we do have quite a few tanks left on our side, so basically, no matter what this guy does, we're going to be able to kill him. Even if he backs into that building and keeps his frontal armor pointed towards the flag, one of us, either Tola or I, or even Racer, can get around behind the guy and shoot him in the back through the window. And now Tola and I are just tag teaming this guy. I've loaded ABCR because I just don't want to bounce. And Racer finishes off the T-28 with his last remaining shell, which ends up giving him the Faden's medal. It's a medal I've actually never gotten before, and I'm a bit sad. But, whatever. Good on Racer. And that was my first ace in the CDC, as well as the high caliber. And unfortunately, the platoon was one off a crucial contribution, and Racer was one off Top Gun. But hey, a win's a win, and it was a fun game to play. Did 4,647 regular damage, picked up 4 kills, as well as 1,385 base experience. And it's nice to see that the platoon all finished in the top 3. I think we had a fairly decent impact in that game. So anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. and maybe I'll catch you next time. And until then, happy hunting.